So I'll get into it. I don't know where I point to move.
I think it might be the
Okay,
left.
there we go.
There you go. Okay.
So the first slide is simply the site plan. We can probably skip the first two slides. This is an aerial that shows you the marina. So this is the marina, and then to the east, or sorry, yeah, to the east, you'll see the users of Pasadena Cove users. So this is encapsulating the condition of approval, the users that this would be available to. And so this is the next slide here, the page that shows the diagram. This is probably the best slide to show what is being proposed. So what's being proposed is an underground fuel tank, as Mr. Cerna said, centrally located in the existing property. Doesn't increase impervious surface ratio, doesn't increase anything aesthetic. You're not going to see the fuel tank. It's not visible to anyone. And then there will be fuel lines and a hose that runs down an existing dock. That's very important to point this out, and the testimony will bear this out. Currently, and probably since 1959, I mean, boats need fuel, right? People that keep their boats at a marina are going to fuel their boats, and they do that on their own. They bring their own tanks, they bring their own gasoline, and they're fueling their boats right now. What this will do is it will professionalize that process, and a MarineMax employee will be the only person authorized to use this fueling station, and there will be a prohibition, and it will be in their agreements, that anybody who has a boat out there is not allowed to do self-fueling. And if you want that as a condition of approval, we can do that as well, but that's what we've committed to. So we're talking about professionalizing an existing service that's already happening. We're talking about limiting it to Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., and we're talking about limiting it only to those users who are currently using the marina or are using the Pasadena Cove space. So the next slide, I'm not going to repeat all of these conditions of approval, but as you all know, this is a quasi-judicial hearing. This isn't a variance request. It's not a development agreement. It's not a land use amendment, which is a legislative. This is a quasi-judicial hearing. So the law says we have to provide you competent, substantial evidence. It can't just be based on our opinion. And so one of the pieces of competent, substantial evidence that you've received is our application. You're also going to hear the testimony of our expert witnesses, but you've also received the independent report of your own expert, Mr. Cerna, an AICP certified planning expert, who did his own independent analysis of the application and judged it against your approval criteria in the code, section 130.14-14D. And he found that this application meets all of the legal requirements for approval. He also evaluated section 130-48 and went through those approval criteria for a special exception and found that those criteria were met and recommended approval. So that's an independent expert analysis provided to the city that provides competent, substantial evidence. So I'm going to introduce Ms. Mess now, who's going to testify and give you just a brief history of how this will operate and the safety features and the environmental. But one thing we want to focus on is the voluntary inclusion of this facility, which is already underway, in the FDEP's Clean Marina program. And again, obtaining this designation indicates that we have met the highest standards of industry practices, and I can provide this to the commission. These are the Florida Clean Marina Guide to Designation and the Florida Clean Marina Best Management Practices. I'll just hand those up here to Commissioner Neidinger. And just to read a brief summary, the purpose of the CMP, the Clean Marina Program from FDEP, is to incorporate the Florida Department of Environmental Protection's environmental best management practices, which exceed regulatory requirements. To obtain clean designation status, facilities must meet all DEP legal regulatory requirements and implement at least 60% of voluntary best management practices, in other words, those practices that exceed what's required. These best management practices address critical environmental issues such as sensitive habitats, waste management, stormwater control, spill prevention, and emergency preparedness. So, Ms. Mess, if you could come up and provide just a brief overview of your background, how this will operate, and let me know if you want me to switch any of the slides here for you as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Heather Mess. I'm the National Marina Manager for MarineMax. MarineMax has about 100 locations, and a handful of them have marinas, which is a storage facility where we store vessels. And my experience in the marine industry, I've been with MarineMax just over 8 years now. Actually a certified marina operator through the Association of Marine Industries. I'm sorry. Okay. So I've also managed one of our larger marinas in Sarasota, Florida for about 5 years as well. As MarineMax, we are encouraging all of our marina locations to become Clean Marina certified. Not all states have this program. Florida has a very robust Clean Marina program. So all of our marinas, with the exception of the marina here, are Clean Marina certified, and as he mentioned, we are in the process of obtaining that certification. And so one other thing that we like to do in MarineMax is we like to encourage our marina managers. So these are the department managers that run the storage facilities themselves, going into launching boats, managing the slips, any fuel. We encourage them to go through this certified marina operator and marina manager program as well. This is an extensive training, 2 weeks training plus experience and a long application process as well to become a certified marina manager or certified marina operator. And along with that training is a lot of the things listed that he just said and on the board here with emergency preparedness, keeping the waterways clean, safe operations, spill prevention, storms, a lot of things that go into managing and operating a facility. So I feel very confident that our training internally goes over any fuel dock attendant training. We talk about spill prevention, emergency shutoff, best practices when fueling vessels. We keep spill kits very close nearby. It is a regulation, but we kind of overdo it, as he mentioned in the Clean Marina, where we make sure that we cover all fire codes, have fire extinguishers, all the safety requirements that go into a marina. I won't get into the details of having floating rings every 75 feet and all that. So we do a lot of extensive training within our company. So I'm very confident that any kind of risk of spillage into the waterways is not likely. And if an event happens where there's minor spillage that burps in the boats, we have absorbent materials very close by. And as a part of our facilities, we do hire vendors and companies nearby that come and pick up our waste materials, as some of our locations have service centers that do oil changes and maintenance and things like that. So we already have those established at the location for any spillages that does happen, just light burps on the boat. We wipe those up with the absorbent pads that are nearby and put them in the waste bins that we already have established.
Thank you, Heather.
Yep.
Does anyone have any questions, Mr. Mayor or Commissioners of Heather, Ms. Ness?
Not of Heather, no. I need a little clarity on something you had said, though.
Yes, sir.
You had mentioned, of course, that you, I guess, had met with some residents over at Pasadena Cove or whatever, and that the MarineMax customers and the Pasadena Cove residents would be able to get gas, but does this include anybody that lives in South Pasadena? I mean, we have a number of condominiums here that have boat slips without any type of fueling, and in the city, and I can't see saying they can't get gas, but Pasadena Cove can. I mean, it's kind of not the way I'd want to work things.
So from my perspective, Mr. Mayor, is if a majority of the commission feels confident in approving this based on Mr. Cerna's recommendation without that condition of approval, that's fine with us. It was proposed by residents who were in opposition, and we felt like it was something that we were willing to do, but it's up to the commission.
Yeah, I don't want to discriminate against one South Pasadena resident and another South Pasadena resident because one condominium will be able to get it and another one can't. That's
And the
just,
Seagull Drive folks are
that would
right
be
here.
something I'll have to take into consideration.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and we'd be fine if you wanted to limit it to South Pasadena residents / boat slip users within South Pasadena.
Right.
That's my biggest worry.
Well, hold on, excuse me,
Yep.
hold on. When we get to that point, Mr. Mayor, I'm gonna, if that's something the commission desires to have as part of the conditions, we're gonna need to have a conversation as to how we enforce something like that. But I think it would be appropriate to allow the applicant to finish their presentation, and we can.
Yes, that's fine.
Any
Yes,
kind of
sure.
condition after that.
Okay.
And I would encourage, and I hate to say this, it's very hard to keep a record in here, so I understand y'all are frustrated and want to make comments, but we can't hear a record if you do that. It's all a record that we have to be able to listen to. So I would
Mr. Mayor, our next witness will be Officer Matthew Lamoureux from FWC. And Officer Lamoureux, if you could just give the commission the benefit of your qualifications, your experience in this area, and then your opinion regarding environmental safety and boat traffic, please.
Good evening, everybody.
Evening.
Officer Lamro. I'm a NASBA 2 certified boating accident incident investigator. It's the highest certification you get for boating accidents. We do reconstructive scenes to reconstruct how accidents happen after the fact in a moving environment, so we can see how things broke down even after the boats are gone. We can reconstruct it, put it in a 3D process, and go from there. My take on what MarineMax is trying to do is I have no skin in the game. I have a boat there that the state pays for. It's not my boat, not my money. What I do know is accidents happen when the common person is fueling their boat. Part of the investigations I see is somebody buys a boat, they've got plenty of money to buy the boat, but no knowledge to really run the boat. So they're putting gas in their boat, and they're putting it in the wrong spot. It's in a rod holder, or it's in a water fill, or it's in a place that's not supposed to go. Today is Sunday night. I had an incident I investigated where a gentleman put gas in his own boat over by the Gandy Bridge, and actually ended up putting it into below deck of his boat. After motoring on the boat, he got roughly 5 miles when that boat exploded, ejecting 2 people, putting 2 people in hospital, serious injuries. My take on this is the safety thing and environmental thing is if the common person is putting gas in their boat, no, that guy doesn't care if that gas hits the deck, hits the water. He's got no training, no way to clean it up. The safety part of what MarineMax is doing, I've been at MarineMax for 6 years as an officer that runs out of MarineMax. I can say that MarineMax is probably I'll just say that MarineMax is the best and cleanest facility I've used. All the employees are very professional. I never have to worry about something messy, oil, dirtiness. They do a lot of repairs and stuff out there. I never see anything bad out of there. It's a very professional company, and I'm feeling strong that this will be a safer environment for boaters and for the environment itself, the environmental impact of people not spilling gas into the water just because they want to go jet skiing or go out in the boat and go skiing, so it's going to dump whatever they can in their boat and motor out of there. I think this will contain a lot of spillage that happens from the common person.
Makes sense.
For Officer Lamoureux, did you have an opinion on whether this would increase boat traffic?
The way, and I use this a lot, and I also patrol that area a lot. I'm probably more than anywhere else there. That is a slow speed zone, Manatee zone for going back from MarineMax all the way to the outskirts of Treasure Island. They're going to pass 2 other fuel docks before they get to MarineMax. That would be faster to get fuel from than motoring all the way through Treasure Island to South Pasadena. I don't see that would be something I would do personally. I would probably hit a fuel dock a little closer to where I'm motoring.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And last, I'd just like you to hear from Mr. Peebler. He's the general manager. He lives on Seagull Drive. And just so you get to know him and can ask him questions if you feel it necessary, I think that'll be it from me. The only thing I wanted to ask all our witnesses, is anyone aware of any oil spills at any MarineMax facility in your experience? Let the record reflect that all 3 said no. Thank you.
My name is Caleb Peevler. I am the general manager at MarineMax. I'm also a resident. I am actually at 1217 Robin Road South, which is the corner of Seagull Drive and Robin Road South, the first road directly to the east of the property that we're discussing. I've been with MarineMax since September of 2015, acting as a technical liaison, a service manager, a general manager for 7 of the 8 years, and more recently was an operations director over the service marina and parts facility in St. Petersburg. But as of recent, within the last month, I'm the general manager of the property. Would be the main point of contact that if somebody has concerns as a resident or as a neighbor, or as a marina member, or even as a community member, that they'd reach out to me directly. The new staff there, as I've been with the company for 8 years, has always been very fond of my hands-on willingness to put my cell phone number on the front door, to put my cell phone number on the business cards, to be right around the corner. I've spoken over the last 10 days, as this has become news for the special application or exemption, I put my cell phone number in the email and have received a number of text messages, phone calls, emails, and then dropped off letters. Some in favor of the fuel station, some in opposition. At the event last night, I stayed, we had an event open to the community with just refreshments, and could we do I don't know where is this the? Yes. We try not to screw this up. Do I just go down? If I want to just go to satellite.
I think it's going to track.
Okay. I was just gonna try and bring it up just for reference. So we did have an event here at the far bottom right corner, just based on vicinity of parking and refreshments, just to discuss that if anybody would want to walk and view that area. Have had a number of visitors come to spend some time with me, shake hands, put a face to a name, and voice concerns. And a majority of the concerns that I've had were obviously in addressing the spilling, and having that controlled, and to speak to Special Agent Lamoureux's comment, or even in addition to Heather's comment, is we have 93 boats in the marina. They're right at about 50-50 in-water boats, the large boats, and there's 43 in-water boats, which are the large boats in the basin there on the north side. And then these 3 rows, the lingo at the dealership is Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, A, B, and C docks. There's 47 boats that live on lifts that are for personal use, not for sale. The for sale boats are up here. The service facility is the bottom of that property. And then this is for residents that are non-Marine Max. The fuel of the private vessels is being handled as of now by personal owners. The intention of the fuel service is to restrict that and change that. We don't have control of an owner, or I guess I have less span of control of him bringing in his own personal cans, or a charter vessel bringing in the back of his pickup truck a container where he's going to bring his fuel in from another location. The larger yachts and bigger vessels may bring in a larger vessel that's going to bring in a larger tank to bring that fuel in. I would like to just control that and make sure a permitted, within code facility, single pump, single location, that's monitored within business hours of 8 to 5, Monday through Saturday, by a MarineMax employee that's received that training, is the one pumping that gas. It is not where it's a marathon station per se, or a self-serve. Where if a customer pulls up to that dock, if somebody from this neighborhood that's a non-MarineMax customer, or somebody that lives in my neighborhood, I'm actually right up here in the basin, that would be locked and closed. It's not like a fuel station that we're familiar with on a personal level or a car level, where you can pump your own gas. It will be with a MarineMax employee and a trained employee that's going to pump that gas. We have a number of spill kits at each of those locations because of the nature of the service yard already. And our proposition, or I guess our application for exemption or exception, is to just restrict that and have control of that.
Okay.
That concludes our presentation, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, on direct. I do want to incorporate into the record, make sure it's incorporated our PowerPoint, our application, Mr. Turner's report, and the correspondence you've received to date, and the expert opinions of the witnesses we've provided. Thank you for your time. Look forward to speaking with you a little later. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay.
Could I apologize if I'm speaking out of turn? No?
Just go back to the podium. Yeah.
I was just in relation to the exception or change, or no? Okay, you addressed it, okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
No problem. Okay. Those wishing to speak in favor of the application are now invited to speak.
Let's take one moment right now. So we're into the time upon which we are having public comment. And you are speaking on your own behalf?
Well, I'm actually.
Well, can you come up to the podium so we can get you on the record? But we're for or against right now?
This is for.
Well, first, we're now in the favor part of this, so let's stick with that. And then
Okay,
we'll
just
go-
sounding,
we're just trying to go
just being clear. If there aren't speakers, I have written ones, so.
You have some written ones, okay.
If they're,
Okay, I see one coming up. Carly.
I'm sorry.
My name is Sam Obradovich. I live actually right here, and my boat is right here. I bought my boat off of Marine Max. Be very convenient for me to take my boat here and go in there and get fuel. And that's all I have to say. I'm in favor of this application.
That's easy.
Another one.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Robert Mossbacher. I am a native Floridian. I'm a 16-year owner at Pasadena Cove. I'm a 45-year boat owner operator, a 35-year scuba diver, and amateur underwater photographer and ecologist, and have every vested interest in protecting the marine life in our beloved state that I have been born and raised in and continue to live and will live the rest of my life. Just a couple of things that I wanted to mention in favor of this proposal, and I know many of these things have been said, but I want to provide some personal context around a couple of them. There's no construction that's needed. They mentioned the fuel lines will be coming down. I heard a lot of concerns about the construction. Is going to be they call it a gas station. It's not a gas station. It's not a facility being built. It's simply hoses that will be coming down. The containers, as they mentioned, will be buried underground on land. No reported fuel spills. I had done some research on that, and of course they just confirmed that as well. The marina is fairly full today. I don't know, the Marine Max Marina is fairly full today. I've been, again, a boater there for 16 years in Pasadena Cove. I've never once that I can remember encountered any traffic that I couldn't ingress or egress from the marina with an already existing fairly full marina, and that includes with the additional 47 boat lifts that were added, and I've never had an issue before. So I'm not sure I understand, especially if it's going to be limited to residents of South Pasadena and Pasadena Cove, how suddenly that's going to create additional concern. Most fuel purchases are our local marina residents anyway. I contacted 3 local marinas that the FWC officer mentioned, and they all told me sort of anecdotally that the majority of their fuel purchases are actually local marina residents. They're not a bunch of transients coming in buying fuel. I also heard some concern about boat strikes on marine life. I find that kind of chuckling and comical, especially as it relates to manatees. Boat strikes happen with manatees at high speed. By definition, this entire area is slow speed. Boat strikes are not going to be an issue for a manatee or other marine life as a result of anything going on at Marine Max. I also heard about birds' nests being disturbed and problems with that related to the fuel dock. There are no birds' nests that I have ever observed anywhere near Marine Max. They're in the mangroves adjacent to Pasadena Cove, in and around and behind, and in the grassland areas behind the mangroves, not anywhere near Marine Max. Unless others can show me a picture, I've never seen a bird's nest. Someone also mentioned property value decreases. I actually chuckled at that one because, as the prior gentleman just mentioned, I can't imagine a better way to potentially increase property values than to be able to know that I can get my boat fueled, serviced, and expertise right there on property. I don't have to travel for. Today, I travel 15 to 30 minutes each way to fuel my boat from Pasadena Cove. I would ask anyone that's in opposition how they would feel if they had to drive 15 or 30 minutes each way to fuel their car. It's not convenient. It doesn't make any practical sense for anyone in terms of damage to the economy, or excuse me, to the ecology and the environment. I see far more risk in me traveling at speed to Gulfport Municipal or O'Neill's or to Suntex to go get fuel and that's the only reason why I would go there. If I want to boat on a Saturday morning, I've got to go on a Friday afternoon, travel over, get gas, and come right back and be ready to boat the next day. So it's unnecessary traffic, additional traffic at speed to cause those things to happen. Also heard someone say they're going to eventually install a T-shirt shop, beer, and a restaurant, or they could. And there are no such facilities at any Marine Max marinas that I when I did research. Is that fair? I mean, I know that there are a ship store, but there's nothing like beer, wine, and restaurant that.
Not a restaurant, but we do have.
Oh, sorry. Okay. All right. And this is very important to me. So improvements from today, and I know this has already been said, personal boater self-fueling. I have been, as I mentioned, 16 years in Pasadena Cove. I have observed many, many, many times boat owners trying to do what they think is the right thing and save money and spill fuel into the marina at Pasadena Cove. I even once observed a 5-gallon jug of fuel fall into the water in the marina at Pasadena Cove off the dock because of a careless boater. I've seen more than my fair share of the telltale signs of fuel, the slick of a fuel on the water in Pasadena Cove because of all of the people that choose to fuel their boats privately. Traffic and fuel waste, I mentioned on the 15 to 30 minutes to go each way. I just see that as a huge waste and inconvenience for everyone. And for all these reasons, I'm in favor of the facility. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was impressive. That was impressive.
Hey, Jim Garland. I'm Shore Drive South, also a client of Marine Max, and have had my boat there for a couple of years now. No, agree with most of everything that's said. One of the things I want to point out is that 15 or 30 minutes that I spend to go to Gulfport or Madeira goes to add their tax money. I looked up the ACFR for Gulfport Marina for 2022. They sold over 400,000 gallons of fuel to boaters like me, because I spend probably hundreds of dollars a month, and all that tax money goes to Gulfport. That will now stay at home to my home marina. And I can get gas there anyway. They'll pull a truck in and they'll fill me up, and that is so much more, to me, dangerous than burying that tank underneath and filling it up from a proper fueling. So I'm totally in favor of it, and thank you guys for it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, is there anyone else that wishes to speak in favor? All right, seeing none, then we will look for those wishing to speak. Yes? You have, okay. You have it in favor of the read.
I do.
Good.
That's what I'm here to read. So one of them provided copies for all of you, so if you want to, I'm going to read this, but they provided copies for you all. If you can pass these out. This is from John P. Cronin of 1332 Pasadena Avenue South, Unit 108. My wife and I support Marine Max having dockside fuel services and urge approval by the city of South Pasadena, Florida. It is self-evident this service will reduce fuel spillage and provide environmental improvement for the public and our Bogosiega Bay waterways. This is achieved by Marine Max providing boaters with an appealing on-the-water, convenient, practical, and easy alternative to lugging gallons of fuel to their boat at dockside. Having a Marine Max fuel site professionally operated at the South Pasadena Marina is vastly superior to private boaters loading fuel at their slip, dock, or yard with the attendant fuel spillage that occurs. It is hoped city officials favor the benefits of reducing environmental fuel spillage damage by approving the Marine Max fuel service. Many South Pasadena residents currently hand-fueling boats at their docks will enjoy this convenience. We certainly will use Marine Max fuel services. Fuel spillage reduction is a primary concern of government environmental protection. On its merits, such concerns justify the city of South Pasadena approval of Marine Max fuel service. Furthermore, city officials will be protecting our environment at no cost to the South Pasadena taxpayers or government.
Thank you. Any more?
Yep, hold on.
Excuse me, Carly, we can't hear you. Is there a microphone that you?
Oh, I'm
can speak
sorry.
into?
Is it not going?
But I was talking loud.
Yeah.
Do you want me to read it again?
No, just do the next one.
If anybody wants to look at that one she just read, we can have that made available, but we'll.
You want one of the ones off the table out there?
Remainder can be heard.
You need a mic out there.
I can just, I thought I was speaking loud. I'll talk louder, sorry. Okay. This is from Margaret Macklin of 6269 Palma Del Mar Boulevard South, number 604. Good morning. I am a friend of a resident of Pasadena Cove who owns a boat that she keeps at the Condo Marina. I ride with her often and we enjoy getting out on the beautiful local waters. Her boat slip is diagonal to the proposed fuel station. Last evening, I attended an educational session with her offered by Marine Max, and I am in favor of the fuel station. At the meeting, Caleb and others explained that the proposed single fuel pump will be manned by a MarineMax employee who will handle the fueling of each boat, and that fuel truck delivery to individual boats will no longer be allowed. This seems like a better solution to safe fueling, and I am in support of the petition. Thank you. One more. This is from, oh man. You want to help me pronounce that name?
Nuziata.
This is from Suzanne Nuziata. I apologize if I got that name wrong. Address is 1332 Pasadena Avenue South, apartment 508. Good morning. I am a resident of Pasadena Cove, and I own a boat that I keep at the condo marina. My boat slip is diagonal to the proposed fuel station. Last evening, I attended an educational session offered by MarineMax, and I am in favor of the fuel station. I was unaware many boat owners who keep their boats at MarineMax regularly have fuel delivered by fuel trucks. Each time that happens, there is a potential for a spill. It was explained that the proposed single fuel pump will be manned by a MarineMax employee who will handle the fueling of each boat, and that fuel truck delivery to individual boats will no longer be allowed. Additionally, the fuel station is not a floating station, and boats will pull up to an existing pier with the pump installed on solid ground, not the fueling pier. This seems like a better solution to safe fueling, and I am in support of the petition. Thank you.
That's it? Thank you. All right, now we'll move on to those wishing to speak against the application. You're now invited to speak.
Well, let's come up and state your name for the record, indicate whether or not you're representing, is it a community organization or yourself, and that will determine the level of time you have.
All right. My name is,
And do you have a card?
my name is Terrence Buchert. I'm an attorney. I live on Seagull Drive as well. So I represent myself, my neighbors, and the Pasadena Gulf Coast Estates Civic Group.
And so at this point in time, what I understand you're requesting is the right to cross-examine, and as a quasi-judicial proceeding, you are allowed the right to cross-examine. If you want to make any statements for the record as it relates to that, please go ahead now, and we'll get that on the record, but I'm going to say that I believe he has the right to cross-examine.
Sure, and I agree with that, Attorney Mandel. The one question, I think the record needs to be clear on who his neighbor clients are, because he said he represents neighbors or people on Seagull, but we have someone on Seagull he doesn't represent. So I think the record needs to be clear on who he does represent.
I'll stipulate that I don't represent Mr. Fiedler.
If you have the names of anybody that you represent, that would be valuable
Well,
for the purposes of
how
the
about-
record. I'm going to make an assumption that this
I've got,
hold on. I'm going to make a presumption that this particular item has the possibility of ending up with judicial review. So I want it stated on the record for the purposes of who you represent, and you're right, and that you in fact have the right to cross-examination. The reason I need you to state that for the record is so I can identify how much time that you are entitled to for that purpose. Thank you.
this is Scott Stice, who is the president of the Pasadena Gulf Coast Estates Civic Group.
Yes. And I have gone through and gotten 66 signatures of petition that we submitted earlier to the council. All neighbors in the neighborhood. Caleb, you can join the neighborhood when you want. I came by your house a couple of times, nobody's home, and it's only $25 a year.
That is sufficient for my purposes
So we
to
have-
know
so we
that
have-
you get 10 minutes.
Do you have a card with your information? Because I need to know who you are.
So for the record, the witness is available for cross-examination are Mr. Cerna, who's the city's witness, Ms. Mess, Mr. Peebler, and Officer Lamoureux, who are the applicant's witnesses.
Correct, thank you. I appreciate that.
If I could, first, Mr. Cerna, the city staff report.
Thank you.
Mr. Cerna, special exception use is not a permitted use, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and it's also, under the city code, it's a use that because of its unique characteristics requires individual consideration. What are the unique characteristics of this permit?
I'm sorry. I thought you were talking to me. I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
Why does it need to be special exception permit?
The code states that a fueling facility is specifically listed as requiring special review.
Yes, sir, but what's the unique characteristics of this permit?
The unique-
Why does it even have to be a special exception?
It's, just, from my understanding, it's just because it's stated as such in the code.
You don't know. You have no idea what the unique characteristics are?
I'm just stating why it's under review as a special exception. It's stated.
Yes, sir, but the question, you don't know what the unique characteristics are?
Of this specific say?
Yes.
Other than what's stated in our staff report.
Okay. So you've rendered an opinion to the city on this application, and that's just your opinion?
Yes.
What did you review to be able to render that opinion?
We reviewed the plan submitted by the applicant, the information available through the public record.
Let me just stop you there. What information in public record?
The property appraisers, data, aerials,
Property appraisers' data on what?
on the site, on the marina.
The property appraiser's value of the site?
Not the value, but the dimensions, the aerials.
Oh, okay, so the survey.
Well, yeah, the aerial survey, yeah.
Let me ask you. Down here, south of the marina. Starts with this green area. What's that?
Excuse me, everybody, we really need to keep it quiet in here so that we can have a proper record.
Well, the zoning of that property, the zoning along the water line is RM 12.5.
You mean down here past these boats?
Well, I'm not sure what the exact line is, but yeah, the green is not RM 12. That's probably, I don't have it on that.
You don't know what that is?
Well, I don't have that.
Preservation district. It's an environmentally sensitive preservation district.
Okay, no, I don't dispute that.
You're not aware of that?
No, I don't know. I am aware of what that zoning is when we did our review. It's not.
Excuse me, I really need to state it again. It is very important that everybody keep quiet so that we can make sure everything that is said is recorded and made part of the record. Thank you.
You stated in your report that it will not adversely affect the public interest and that there be minimal impact on surrounding properties. What is that minimal impact on these surrounding properties?
Well, we're looking at the specific use, which is a fueling facility. This is an existing marina, and we looked at the use as a common accessory use in marinas, and based on a land use issue, yeah, that there would be limited impacts as an accessory use.
What's the minimal impact on these people who live on Seagull Drive? You said there's minimal impact. What is it?
Well, they live across, there's an existing marina there. You can see from the aerial the distance of the fueling facility from those houses.
You can? How much is that?
Well, just,
Seagull Drive's property line goes right about there in front of the boats. So how far is that to the fuel?
I don't know the exact dimensions, but you can see from the aerial the distance.
No, you can't. If you don't have the dimensions, you can't see the distance.
Well, I don't know the dimensions offhand, but just visually you can see the distance. And again, it's an existing marina. This is an accessory to that. So that's
But
what we look
minimal impact meaning some impact, right?
Of course, anything you do there will have some impact on surrounding property.
Well, let me just ask you, you don't know that. Don't you think the city commissioners should have the value of an opinion as to what that impact would be? Instead of just stating it's minimal and not knowing why.
Well, I didn't quantify the impact, but just stating that it's a common accessory use, the distance from surrounding properties. Yeah, I think it's sufficient to state minimal impacts.
Sufficient for who? Is it sufficient for the city commissioners? That's
Well,
all they need to know?
It's my professional opinion that is a minimal impact. We didn't quantify it.
Let me ask you your professional opinion. What's your background? You know anything about marinas?
Well, I'm a professional planner for over 30 years. I do know marinas as based on land uses. I've reviewed other marinas.
Okay, how about fueling? You know anything about that?
For purposes of planning purposes, yes, I do.
Okay, the effect of fueling on the environment, do you know anything about that?
I understand that this use will go through a separate review process, separate permitting process that's not subject to tonight's consideration.
How do you understand that? That's not something that was in your report.
If I could just interrupt for a second, this is not a court, so I understand what you're trying to do, but can we try and have the questions be more directed towards the responses versus more of that aggressiveness?
Ms. Mandel, we listened to the Dog and Pony Show from Marine
I
Max,
understand.
and, you know, they got a lot of time. I'm
not
sorry.
taking
These,
your
I've got a
time.
lot of people here who are
I'm just
very
asking
upset
for
about
you
this.
to potentially
Okay.
keep it a little bit
Well, let me
more-
talk about this then. Down here, we have a preservation district. Do you understand what that is, or do you know what that is in the City Code of Pasadena?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Well, what permitted uses are there in a preservation district?
It's very limited development, very low impact.
Have you even looked at that city code?
Oh, yes, I have.
Well, then what are the permitted uses?
I can't cite them.
Would you believe that it says none?
I believe that might be correct. I don't have the code in front of me. But
You are the city staff reporter for this. You don't know that it's either none or very few?
Our review is limited to the site itself and the application and the properties immediately adjacent to it and our
Which is
determination.
one of these preservation districts, right? It's the
It's-
next property over.
It's not, if you look at the zoning map that's in the report, it's not immediately adjacent. It is separated by water.
So it wasn't a part of your concern?
No, it was a consideration.
Okay, well, how did you consider it?
Well, again, it's based on the criteria that's in the report.
But I don't remember reading anything about it in your report. Did you put something in there that I missed?
Well, let me just state that fueling facilities are subject to separate environmental regulations that are not under my purview or under the purview of the city. It will be permitted separately, and we just looked at special exception criteria.
Is the public interest, does that include the effect on the environment?
Yes.
Okay, so did you consider the effect on the environment? Because what you're supposed to determine is whether there's an adverse effect on the public.
Well, again, this is not a permitting review, and so we did not have the details to determine that it would be permitted, how it would be permitted. That will be a separate process.
So even though with public interest includes environmental concerns, you didn't consider that?
No, we did consider it, but again, it's a separate permitting process that'll be considered.
You
separately.
considered it but left it out of your report
Well, we did not do a permit review
concerning the environment.
for permitting, yes.
Okay. This preservation district, are you aware of why it exists?
Yes, it's based on the features of the property, the environmental features of the property.
And are you aware that its development is designed to minimize the impact of human activities on natural systems and not adversely affect the natural character of the area? Are you aware of that?
Yes, I'm aware that that's for the property that's not in question.
How can a fuel permit be compatible with this preservation area?
Again, it's separated by water, it's not immediately adjacent, and there is an existing marina there,
It's, the water, so fuel that spills over here doesn't get over here? Are you really gonna say that? I mean, if a fuel spill happens here, doesn't it get over here pretty quick?
Well, again, we reviewed it for the criteria that's in the code. There is fueling that's going on site. Currently, this would just be done, in our opinion, in a manner that would be consistent with state and federal regulations.
Okay, until tonight, did you know how they were gonna do the fueling?
Oh, we do have the plans, yes, showing the.
Request an additional 5 minutes? This one?
Sorry?
No, thank you.
Request an additional 5 minutes?
That would be up to the commission to grant.
No.
Okay.
Well, if anybody else wants to cross the border, they would certainly have to.
I'd like to cross-examine some of the other witnesses.
You have.
So I represent a civic group, and we get 5 minutes.
No, you got 10 minutes.
10.
You got 10.
Thank you. But
That's how much you get under our rules. You get 10 minutes, and I made that statement at the beginning. You got 10 minutes. As someone who came in as representing a community, I made sure that you indicated what community you were representing. And so that way, you were identified as representing a community, and you got 10 minutes.
Okay.
That was how long that took.
so,
If anybody else using their time certainly also has that right, but the right for 10 minutes is the right you have. And we made that clear at the beginning. If the commission wanted to grant you additional time, that would be up to them, but I think at this point, given the number of people here, what I hear them saying is that they
okay.
don't feel compelled.
If I could request, I mean, the record, does that contain the letter that I sent yesterday to the?
I was about to say that when you were completed. I did, as you were speaking, hand out the letter that you presented so that it was made part of the record and the commission would have that as part of their review. I also presented that to council on the.
Does the record also have the petitions that were submitted?
I don't know if those were submitted, were those submitted to us probably?
How did they come in?
Understood sometime today, but,
But by somebody else?
yeah, somebody else.
Okay, so it would depend, do you know who that would have come from? Because I have everything
talked
by
about it, but-
name.
but-
So if
okay,
it's not
we'll-
under
we'll
you,
find
I
out.
don't know.
I didn't.
If we could go ahead and make sure we have that, we're happy to get that made part of the record.
I mean, I have a petition, I'm not sure if it's what you're talking about. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in opposition against the, come up to the podium?
I have written ones on there.
You have written ones too.
Thank you. If you could step off the podium and actually get together right there. Thank you. Oh. Okay, I have your, do you want me, can I get these out now then? Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, well, I have two. Take and pass and see. I've got two more.
Yeah.
If you can just start your comments with your name and address.
My name is John Herrick. I live 1730 Lighthouse Terrace. On the map right here, this is where I live. Marina's here. I live right here. What I do every day is I kayak from my place all the way up through the marina, do a circuit through the marina, and then up the creek. That's my, ever since COVID hit, that's where I get my exercise. Take photographs of all the wildlife. One of the things that I'm very concerned about as immediately across from where the fuel dock is going to be is that sensitive area. And what I've taken into account is the risk that is being taken into account. The risk for the marina is minimal. They may lose 100 gallons of fuel, a couple $100. That's their risk. The risk for the dolphins, the manatees, the birds, and the marine life is where all the risk is in this. I lived on my own boat for 7.5 years, and I'm quite familiar with fueling it. And many times there's a little bubble that comes back, and I always had towels ready for that. And as was mentioned, the one thing that was not mentioned, or briefly mentioned, was any containment or cleanup. Running out my 5 minutes. One of the things that I'm quite familiar with is cleanup, and I don't see anything on their plans for supplies of materials that can be immediately put into the marina. They may have 5 miles away somebody that could bring in a boom, but there's no boom and no provision for immediate. When I went out yesterday in the marina, there were 3 ospreys. There were two little greens, one great blue, and this is a photograph of the great blue on the marina, on one of the boats. There was one anhinga, a cormorant, 2 ibis, and a skimmer. So this is a very intense area for wildlife. Recently I've seen in there dolphin come up the fairway every day in the morning and then in the afternoon. Manatees, snook, tarpon, mullet, pelicans, ducks, snowy, egrets, night herons, eagles, hawks. I've seen bald eagle twice. Kingfishers, oyster catchers, terns. Those are the type of things that are prevalent in this area. The great concern is that this is an additional point source for fuel. As has been mentioned, there are trucks that come in and fuel up the boats. Those are professionals. They do a good job. My kayak, even though I use it every day, is coated on the bottom from fuel spills. It's just a feature. What the marina is a very good marina, I tell you that. They use this material over the new boats, and anytime they work on the boats, they put this material down so they can walk on it. Well, it ends up in at my house. Thank you.
I understand. Thank you.
Do you have any questions of me?
Not at this time, but thank you very much.
Could I make one more sentence?
No, sir, we have other people that might want to speak, and we just need to move on.
Could I ask him a couple questions?
Yes, you can. Yes, sure.
How long have you lived on that boat there?
7.5 years.
Okay. Do you go over to the marina to pump it out? How do you handle?
I have a kayak.
But you don't live on a kayak.
When I lived on my boat, I fueled it up in Gulfport.
Sure.
Oh,
Yeah,
I don't think he lives on a boat now. You don't live on a boat now, right?
No.
You live in a home?
I thought you lived on a boat now, and then you use your kayak to get your exercise.
No,
Okay.
I live right here in the condo.
Oh, okay, very good.
But I lived in this marina right here
Gotcha.
for 7.5 years.
Yeah, when I owned a boat, I used to be over there a lot, and I'd go in to pump out, and then I'd have to go over to Gulfport to get fuel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's common. To further answer your question, to get fuel, the boats that park up here that are catamarans that work on, they bring their own fuel in. They don't buy it at marinas.
Yeah.
the Coastal Cruiser, which is right here, they get their fuel from, the marina brings the tank over on a fork truck.
Pumps it into it.
And they pump it into that. But they were out of fuel last Thursday, so they just went to Gulfport, fueled up. Wasn't any.
It'd sure be a convenience for the people there to have a good, well-maintained fuel system, you know?
Right, but at the same time, if they have a spill, that's gonna affect this whole area. And that's a risk that.
I understand your concern. I really do.
Big
Thank you.
concern.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
I used to be the,
I'm sorry to.
Right, yeah, we got it.
We really are past our
But
time.
don't forget your stand, though. Yeah. All
I
right,
used to be on a board, and I know how keeping you past 8 o'clock was.
We're gonna go long past that.
yeah. Okay,
Hi, Carly.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, how are you? Anyway, I have this for the commissioner.
Okay.
Oh, my card. So I have to read with these glasses.
yeah, let's pass it, everybody look at it.
Okay.
You ready? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Hi. I'm sure you all remember me. My name's Sandra Chappella. I live at 3717 46th Avenue South in St. Petersburg, Florida. Dear Commissioners, over many years at many commission meetings, I've expressed a need for the commissioners to protect the city's valuable shared marine environment, one of the most valuable assets in any Florida community. The presentation stated no public use, but the Gulfport Marina Special Exception Use Application doesn't specifically state whether or not the fueling station will be used by the general public. It should. Even if private use only is a condition of the permit, how will the city monitor private non-public use or use by Pasadena residents only? Even limiting fueling to South Pasadena residents only would be extremely difficult to monitor. No plan is presented on any monitoring process. Additional boat traffic to and from the marina, even from South Pasadena residents, will disturb the local residents living along the way, their quiet use of their private property. Additional boat traffic to and from the marina will negatively impact the marine preservation area that's marked on the map in green. And that's due to increased boat wake erosion, which damages seagrass and mangrove roots, and the oil film, which is a well-documented marine contaminant inherent from running boat motors. There must be a condition for no public use to minimize boat traffic past the Marine Preservation District. There will inevitably be small accidental fuel spills no matter who's pumping the fuel, and the potential for a larger spill will always exist. Otherwise, containment procedure protocols wouldn't be necessary. Additional boats fueling in the marina increases this risk for additional spills. No matter how minimum in size, even small spills will be in an area of the bay that has minimal flushing. Any fuel spill will remain mostly stagnant, moving slowly in and out of the basin over and over again with the tides, and will contaminate the marine preservation area. There is no hardship due to the lack of a fueling facility. As stated by the MarineMax representatives, boats in the marina can already obtain fuel. This is the most accurate way to ensure fueling remains private and only for boats moored at the MarineMax facility. The marina is a popular, sought-after location, has no problem maintaining a full marina, even without an in-ground fueling facility. It's clear from their presentation that an in-ground facility isn't a necessary auxiliary function and should be denied. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Is there anyone else willing to speak against today?
How are you? Good to see you.
Good evening. I know this is a very long night. I remember sitting up there through some very long meetings myself, so I know you just all want me to go sit down now. But it's very nice to be back and to see everyone, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. I felt compelled, even though I have heard many of the things that I have put in my notes already, to just share some things that I think are a great concern for anyone who lives in South Pasadena. And primarily what I'm going to talk about is the environment, which I think is what all of us have heard tonight. First of all, I'll say that my husband and I have lived in Pasadena Cove at